This conference will now be recorded.
Now, let us look at some of these software requirements for us if you want to set up SAP HANA in any customer landscape. See, the first decision customer has to take is whether you want to go with the standard edition or enterprise edition. There are two different editions available. There's also a third one available. They call it as Express Edition. But remember that Express Edition is only for personal use. Mostly that's only for personal usage. But as far as an organization is concerned, for a customer, standard edition or enterprise edition. Standard edition will be consisting of all the core components, or you can say the core process, like database services will be there. You have the basic application services like Access Engine, the dynamic tiering, all these whatever they mentioned here. Apart from that, additionally, if customer want to have something like EIM, SAP EIM, Enterprise Information Management, like SDI, SDQ, you want to have some predictive capabilities, and they want to have some real-time replications using SLT. So all these things, some additional costs will be there, additional licensing is required. So in such cases, you can go with Enterprise Edition. So remember that Enterprise Edition is an extension of this Standard Edition. So if you go with Enterprise Edition, whatever you have in Standard Edition, everything you get. And apart from that, additionally, you'll be getting those EIM tools, real-time replication tools like SLT and all that. So it's ultimately the customer edition. But one more point I want to mention here, SAP is also having something called runtime licenses, SAP HANA runtime licenses. You can check with SAP on this in case if customer is interested. When it comes to the runtime licenses, they are provided free of cost. But only in specific scenarios you can use. Suppose if you're interested running an application on top of HANA, then you can opt for that runtime license. So when you use runtime licenses, HANA runtime licenses, you are not allowed to perform any development activities at the HANA database level. No development activities are allowed at the HANA database level. But in case if you're interested in doing some development activities at the HANA database level, so compulsory minimum you need to go with HANA Standard Edition. And if needed, you can opt for Enterprise Edition also, like that. So now, once you decide on that, once we get the license from SAP, and in case if you are going with the TDS scenario, where the customers, they have to do the installation on their own. In case if they go with appliance model, as already explained you the other day, that the hardware vendor will do the installation and give it to you. But anyhow, when we go with the TDS scenario, once they get the software from SAP, they have to do the installation. Certified installers need to do the installation. So coming to that software, if you go to SWDC, Software Distribution Center, there you can get SAP Platform Edition, SAP Platform, the respective version will be available, say 2.0, SPS 03. There will be 4 DVDs, they will be providing you 4 DVDs. You can just download those 4 DVDs and extract. So once you do that extraction, what you end up with is this media. This is what you get. Like this one. This is HANA DB 2.0 SPS 03 revision 33. This is what you end up with. So this includes a lot of software components. If you go to this, you have data units. Under the data units, you'll find a lot of components they'll provide you. There is database server available, HANA Studio available, HANA Client available. So there are multiple components they'll provide, and they provide you something called HANA Database Lifecycle Management. Using that HANA Database Lifecycle Management tools, you'll be able to do installation as well as updations. Okay, so that's a software which you need to get, and then you can proceed with your installations there. So if you look at a simplified setup with basic core components, this is how it looks like. And this also, everything is not mandatory. Like you have database server, this is your database, the core database. SDA is not mandatory. Smart data access to access your nearline storage systems. That's not mandatory. It's an optional thing again. So part of this HANA itself, you have these extended application services, which already explained you yesterday. And there are different processing engines also, interfaces. And the consumption clients can be anything. It can be a reporting tool. It can be a technical tool, whatever it is. It can be an application. So as far as the tools are concerned, what we can call them as interfaces. On the right hand side, you can see that you have HANA Studio, which is there right from the beginning. Is one of the graphical tool, which I'm going to explain and show you that now. Web IDE is there, that's for development, and HANA Cockpit. HANA Cockpit is very important for you as an administrator particularly. We'll look into that in detail. But if you look at the extended landscape with all the additional components, look at this. This is an extended landscape. So much is there. So here in this extended landscape, you have the dynamic tiering, you have additional processing engines, we have that SDI, SDQ, which is EIM, and then see on the left side so many capabilities they are given: data services, SLT replication server, so live data streaming facility, remote data synchronizations, so much. So it purely depends what requirements you have. Based on that, only all these components will come into picture. So now once the customer is having these, the software is available with him. Yesterday already shown you the way they start the installations or perform the installations. Suppose if it is SPS03, so once they go to that media, the data units, there is something called HANA Database Lifecycle Management. So they have the graphical one available or command line one available. Anyhow, our interest is not learning installations. It's more of security, but this will be helpful for you later on to work with the security more effectively. So if you run this HTTP LCM, so here you run HTTP LCM. I'm just using the command line one. So when you want to do an installation, you can just choose that install new system option. As I mentioned, you can also do an updation by using this existing components. So now what it says, HANA database so and so version will be installed, means you'll have database will be installed, database server. At the same time, it's also asking you, do you want to install additional components, like you want SDA, you want Studio and the server, you want to have advanced runtime for access engine, you want to have some application function libraries. You can decide on that if you need them. It's not mandatory to install all these components now. As and when situation demand, you can do that anytime. It need not be now. So suppose I want to install the client, I want to install Studio or something like that. I just select those numbers. Otherwise, if I'm not interested in all those components except the database server, I'll just select 2, no additional components. So then it will ask for some details. Details in the sense, before starting SAP HANA database server installation, first of all, they need to prepare the operating system. So either SUSE Linux or Red Hat they need to install. And when they do that, they have to prepare a file system. So if you go to your installation guide, which is provided by SAP in help.sap.com, they'll give you clearly the recommended file system layout. The standard recommended file system layout mainly includes installation path. The default path is this /HANA/share. That's the recommended path. Then the host name it's asking you to specify. And there is also an option for you to install HANA database on multi-nodes. Multi-node installation is possible. In case if you have, you can add additional host. So you have to specify the SID, whatever the SID you want to give, instance number, and then the usage type, the purpose of this, for which purpose you are going to use it. You are going to use it for development, test, production, like that. So I want to use it for development. And another thing what you need to have in the file system layout is the recommended file system layout is data volumes. Because we know that just storing the data in the memory is not sufficient. Apart from storing the data in the memory, you also need to store the data in the disk. What we call it as persistent storage. If you don't persist the data, you lose the data in case if your system goes down. And that too, for a better performance of both writing as well as reading. What SAP has done is that persistent storage, they split it into two parts. One they call it as data volume, another one is called log volume. So the data volume default recommended file system path is this /HANA/data, and then the SID, whatever the SID we are given. And then it will ask for log volume path. The recommended is /HANA/log/SID, like this. So that installation directory, HANA shared, this data volume and log volume, these three must be common shared directories. If you have a multi-node installation, 2 nodes, 3 nodes, 4 nodes, irrespective of that, these three must be common shared. That's very, very important there. And then there is also an option for you to restrict the maximum memory allocation. Why it's needed is, generally SAP recommendation is if you want to set up dev, test and production systems, it is recommended to have dev and test systems on one appliance, whereas production exclusive appliance separately. So when you have bought an appliance where you want to install dev and test systems both, so when you install your dev database, you should restrict the memory allocation. Otherwise, if the entire memory is utilized by dev, that will be affecting your test system. So that's the reason why they are given an option for you to restrict the maximum memory allocation. If you are not doing it now, you can do it even after the installation also. There will be a simple configuration parameter which we can set. Host details. And then when you do installation of HANA database, this will be useful for you for security point of view. There will be a user created at the OS level, just like when you install SAP application, same way. The user created at the OS level, the OS user is SID ADM. SID ADM. So enter the password for that. And then there is a database user created, default database user. The default database user is system, is like an administrator. Because once after installation is done, you need to log into the database, you need to connect to the database. So you need a user. That user is system user. So these are the two users, one operating system user, one database user. And one more point, remember, when we are doing installation of HANA database, first HANA database, on this machine, already I have another database installed earlier. If you are doing it first time, remember there is also one more user created called SAP ADM. You might be knowing this. Any SAP installation, there will be host agent, and a host agent will have a user SAP ADM. So that host agent is only one per system, means one host you have, there is only one host agent, there is one user SAP ADM.